Hey guys, I'm Rhino, otherwise known as AoE Only for the Win, and I'm here to bring you a Sunken Temple 72 mob pull tutorial. I've seen some other tutorials that have been posted that are very well done, but I felt like they missed some key details. I recently hit 54 and started doing these pulls myself, and there were some nuances that caused me to die quite a few times that I felt weren't covered in these tutorial videos, and so I wanted to make my own to kind of cover those and hopefully help some people out who might be getting close to the level range where they're going to do the Sunken Temple 72 mob pull. I did get some motivation or some influence from ClickVice on YouTube as well as ClickVice on Twitch, and then Harambe the Monkey on YouTube. Both of them have really good tutorial videos that cover these pulls as well as many others. I'm getting very close to learning how to do the 100 mob pull in Sunken Temple, and so I will be doing that next. You can catch me live at twitch.tv/AoE Only for the Win. The link will be in the description below, where I will be doing some of these pulls. Anytime I'm live, I'll be doing the Sunken Temple pulls, might be doing some ZF pulls, might be moving on to other dungeons. I'm looking at Elbers, of course, and really any of the others. So if you want to catch me, check out twitch.tv/AoE Only for the Win. I thought about doing this with just a live poll and talking through it as I go, but I realized that there are some pretty important details that are covered in a short period of time. So I felt like it was easier to do a clean poll myself and then just talk over it to kind of talk through it so I'm not jumbling my words or talking too quickly, because there is some very important information that can happen in a very short span of time. Also, one of the primary things that I felt was missed in a lot of the other tutorial videos is a tip on essentially doing an entire dungeon clear with a regular group and then practicing the jumps yourself that you have to do for the pull. That way you can understand them and you're more likely to be successful when doing them, so you don't mess them up when you try them for your first time. Sunken Temple is unfortunately a very long run back from the graveyard if you do happen to die, so it could get very frustrating if you're dying over and over again and you're having to run back each time because you're simply missing the jumps. So starting off here, this is after I did a pull and I did a clear myself. I show you guys that it's a really good idea to come to the 3 primary jump spots that we use in the pull and practice them yourself. So this first one is the candle jump, which luckily there's no time restraint on this one. When you're doing this pull, which you'll see when I do the actual clear myself, you'll see that there is no time constraint. You don't have to get this on the first try. There's no mobs chasing after you. You usually drop combat shortly after because the mobs are stuck up above, and so you can come here and you can practice this. Now you'll notice that this one is a little bit more tricky. This is my least favorite of the 3 jumps. It's very finicky on where you have to jump from and where you jump to, and so if you're doing this for the first time, it could be pretty frustrating. You could be missing it and thinking you're doing something wrong. I've been doing this for quite a few pulls and I still struggle to get it sometimes. So make sure that you line up, kind of along the line and practice this yourself, so that way you can make sure that you have an understanding of how to properly do this. So I go to a little bit to the left of this line, to the right of the candle, and that gets you up on the ledge. And then this obviously opens up the possibility of practicing the running along the ledge portion, which can happen. You can fall off of that. I've never done it myself, but I have seen people do it when they're doing their pulls, where they're practicing running, or they're running along here during their pull and they fall off. And depending on your level and how well geared you are, as well as your ability to recover, it usually means a certain death if you do fall off at a certain point while running along this wall. So you can practice this. Highly recommend practicing it before doing the runs yourself. Just doing a full clear. Pretty easy to find a dungeon group for Sunken Temple, and then after you're done, just go practice the jumps. These next 2 jumps, which are the ice block jump, as I like to call it, and then the kill jump, as I like to call it, are much easier. It's not something that's going to require a lot of practice, but it's good to still get that practice in so you know what to do. So this is the ice block jump that you're going to see me doing. You basically jump up on the ledge, and then you ice block in the corner while angling your camera backwards. It's really important to do that because you want to make sure you have a view of the casters. I'm going to talk about that when we get into the actual pull, but practicing here, again, this one is really simple. You're basically jumping up, and you can continue holding W and holding forward, and you should still get into that corner there. And then here's the kill jump, where you're going to be practicing. This one is also very simple. You're basically doing a jump forward, and then you're letting go of W after you jump, and doing so will cause you to clip the ledge so you can get up on top. This one is really awesome because you can do this from multiple different spots on the floor. You don't have to jump from exactly where I'm at, but I'm going to actually, I use this spot, this circle here, as a reference point for where I want to stand for the kill phase. And so that's why I practice jumping from here anytime I want to do that practice jump. But these two jumps are really simple and really easy to learn, so I highly recommend giving them just a practice. Shouldn't take very long. I did it on other characters as I was clearing Sunken Temple. I just, after the run, went over and practiced them to make sure I was good to go when I got a Mage to 54 so I could do the clear myself. Now, getting into the actual run itself, a couple important things to cover. So, gear. I did on this character, I went ahead and spent about 100 to 150 gold buying all of the owl gear. And so you see I have a lot of intellect and I have a lot of spirit. This is not a necessity, but you do need some intellect and some spirit. You just don't have to splurge like I did. However, it has paid dividends because these pulls are significantly easier as I have a much larger mana pool, and then as my mana is lower, it recovers faster because of the higher spirit, especially while I have my mage armor on, and that allows me to cast even more and clear the runs faster. So I've been able to clear the runs faster and get better experience, get better loot, everything like that, because I have that spirit. So if you want to do that, it's worth it in my opinion. In the auction house on my server, it was only 100 to 150 gold. You could probably get it even cheaper than that if you didn't go for the highest of the high level. I was buying mostly 55 gear when doing this. When it comes to talents, my talents are not optimized, so these aren't perfect, but they're good enough for what you need. The primary things are clear casting is really, really helpful. Having the resistance in case you do resist spells and you get the mana back is also helpful. And then obviously your standard AoE frost spells. Again, this isn't perfect. I'm waiting until I hit level 60 to re-go through my talents, and I will kind of have to tweak them for the different type of pulls, but for the most part, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Going into the pull itself, you're going to see that I'm going to buff up with Ice Armor, Arcane Intellect, and Dampen Magic, and then you're also going to see later in the run I reapply those. And then I also put on my Mana Shield and my Frost Barrier. It's also important that you have your food, water, and all of your gems available. And then it's nice to have health and mana potions where necessary, and then also nature protection potions are very, very helpful, especially for this pull. And then when I move on to the harder pulls, these become even more helpful. It's not a necessity, but it definitely helps, especially reducing the amount of interruptions that you get because of the damage, and just protects you more, allows you to clear faster, and they're not very expensive either. When it comes to weak auras, I have a couple things here. So I have one weak aura that I just created myself. This is a very simple one that lets me know when I don't have my nature protection potion on, only when I'm in Sunken Temple. I also have a timer one that times from when I engage the boss, so all the mobs start pulling. You'll see that later on. I have my basic frost barrier or ice barrier weak aura, which tells me when my ice barrier is down. This is because I have a really bad tendency of not reapplying my ice barrier when I need to. This is just a personal thing. And then you'll also see kind of loot weak auras, but there's nothing that's absolutely groundbreaking about what I have going on. So you're going to want to put on your ice barrier and your mana shield, and then what I typically do is I drink a little bit. I want the cooldown to happen faster, so essentially I want it to be off cooldown, or be more likely to be off cooldown while I'm doing this first part, getting to the pull spot. And the reason for that is because when you're at a lower level, it doesn't really happen at 58, but when I was down at 54, I was having a problem of getting pretty low on health when I was getting to the reset spot that I'm going to show you. So having those off of cooldown will help you in getting to that spot easier. I've never died doing this, but I just want to mention it that it does make it easier. So I'm going to ice barrier, mana shield, then I'm going to drink. And in your typical fashion, I'm just going to do some simple stuff to get to the spot. So this first group here, I use rank 1 Cold and Cold. It doesn't really matter. I mean, they usually don't hit me more than once anyway, but it's no harm, no foul, because I can just regen my mana. Heading up the stairs, I blink up the stairs, and then wherever I find the patrol, I just Frost Nova them and continue on. So rank 1 Frost Nova, continue up, and you'll notice I'm not even getting hit. So I don't even need to reapply if I needed to, which it is off of cooldown, so I could if I absolutely had to. This group here, I just run past, although I'll sometimes counterspell one of the casting mobs if I need to, if I don't have my shield, but I do. And then when you get to here, you're basically going to jump down and blink. So the angle at which you jump isn't terribly precise. There's a wide range where you can jump and you shouldn't pull. I did this at level 54 and I wasn't pulling any mobs anytime that I jumped down. But you are going to want to jump down kind of at an angle here and then blink shortly after before you hit the ground, just to ensure you don't pull any of the mobs directly below you. Here you're free. There is no pressure. There's no mobs actually chasing you. Yes, you're still in combat, but your combat will drop no matter what, even if you don't get this next jump. So you're going to see I'm going to be running along here, and I believe I actually fail the jump here. Yep. So I fail the jump a couple times, and then I get it and finally get up to show you that there is no time constraint, and that this also is temperamental, and it will sometimes fail you even if you are being successful, or even if you have practiced it, it will still fail you if you've been doing it for a while. Then I just pop my ice barrier, do my ledge walk, and then get to my reset spot here in the corner. Sometimes one thing to note that I actually did forget to show is there's a group of mobs right behind you when you're in this corner, and sometimes there will be like a caster or two in this group. It's random. The thing to note is that if there are casters, they will cast on you. If you happen to pull, if you're 60, you might not pull, but if you do pull, they will continue casting on you, but once they run out of mana, they will then reset. So all you have to do is just keep up your mana shield, keep up your ice barrier, and you should be totally good to go. If you wanted to use your nature protection potion, you can. If you are getting close to death, it will resist their spells, and then once they run out of mana, they'll completely reset. Another thing that I like to do, you'll see me do right here, is I like to mark the second dragon with a skull. I do this for my own benefit. It just allows me to more easily track the mob that I'm needing to pull once I get around this corner. I'm going to regen my mana, make sure I'm full mana, full health. And then one thing that I really like to do here is I like to make sure once again that my ice barrier is not on cooldown or is close to being off of cooldown in case I get hit a lot by these dragons for this pull. Once they're clear of that corner, I run forward and I go on just the other side of this ditch here. And this is the spot where I'm going to be casting from. So from here, I'm going to target the second dragon. I'm going to cast a rank 1 Frostbolt, and then I'm going to run back towards the boss. I'm going to turn around and cast one more rank 1 Frostbolt, and then stand inside the boss until the boss yells. As soon as the boss yells, I'm going to blink. And here I actually have the unfortunate thing that can happen where the dragons toss me, and I basically... It makes it tougher to get to the reset spot, which is right here. You're going to see me heading towards it anyway. So just be aware of that. That's why I like to have the shields up and off of cooldown so I can reapply them where needed. My ice barrier failed right there because I took damage. And then I ran along this ledge here and jumped across. Now, one thing, this didn't happen to me here, but this has happened on roughly 40 to 50% of the runs. When you jump across that gap here, so let me see if I can get the... So this gap right here, sometimes when you jump across this gap and get to the other side, the two dragons behind you are still in combat with you. They're still trying to attack you. They'll be stuck back on the other side of the ledge, but they will be trying to attack you. So the important thing to note when you jump across here is look to see if you're still in combat. So here I am not, but about 40 to 50% of the time I still am in combat because those dragons haven't reset yet. It's important to note if you are in combat or not, because if you are in combat and you jump off of this ledge, those two dragons will come attack you and they will kill you if you're not able to get back up onto a safety spot. And it sometimes takes a while, so please make sure to watch your combat. That's why I really like having the floating text that lets me know when my combat drops. So then I know when to drop down and run across here to this ledge. Here, you shouldn't pull any mobs. Even when I was 54, I wasn't pulling any mobs, and I just came and stood in this corner. As people have talked about in other tutorial videos, this is essentially just allowing the mobs to render in faster so they can get to the spot and allow you to do the full pull, and they're better grouped up. So here, I typically stand here, I reapply my ice barrier and my mana shield at somewhere between 30 and 40 seconds. It's not really that precise. I regen my health and my mana. I also switch to Mage armor. So this is where I switch to Mage Armor. I reapply my Dampen Magic. I drink my Nature Protection Potion, and then around 25 to 30 seconds, I move on to the pulling phase. So here, I'm getting ready to pull. You'll notice some of the mobs are kind of yo-yoing back and forth. That can happen. I haven't really found a good way to fix that or to prevent that from happening. So if it does happen, you just kind of have to do what I do, where I pull the group, I blink. It's important that you blink as much as you can to get out of this room, and then I use Frost Nova and Cone of Cold to slow them. I have never had a problem here of dying, even at 54, and when my gear was really crappy back then, I still wasn't having issues of dying here because they really don't hit that hard, and it's typically the whelps that are stuck there. Then, one thing I did forget to note here is when I do round the corner, I typically like to follow along this line here. The reason for this is it allows me to keep an eye on the mobs behind me so I can see how well grouped they are, because there are times where I've done this pull and I've rounded the corner and they are a tight-knit group. They are as tight-knit and close as you can possibly be. Other times there are stragglers like this where the whelps get out, and then the worst case scenario is actually where they're really strung out and they're like a huge long line leading back quite a ways. In a case where that happens, you'll notice I'm popping some rank 1 blizzards. This is just to try to get them a little bit grouped. It's helpful. You'll kind of learn it as you go, but the primary thing that I'm really unhappy about with this pull here in particular, I was able to do this pretty quickly, but is the casters. So the important thing here is you want to keep your eye on the casters, and you preferably don't have the casters at the back here, but unfortunately the way this grouping worked, I got the casters at the back for this pull. Having the casters at the back is a little bit of a struggle because when you go to the reset spot, they're going to run past you last and they're going to run back to you first and start casting on you, which is why you need the why it's better to have the nature protection potions. Also, if they're really spread out here, you need to ice block before the first mob gets to you, but you want to make sure that there's enough time for your ice block to wear off, but all the mobs are past it. So here you're going to see me jump up and get to my ice block spot. I'm going to immediately start watching for these mobs because I don't want these melee mobs in the front to hit me because they will kill me instantly. I want to ice block before they get to me, but I want to make sure there's enough time for the casters to run past me. So I'm closely watching these back casters to make sure that my ice block doesn't expire. If it does, these 3 casters would start casting on me and I'd have to figure out a good reset to get them, to continue on. But if they did start casting on me, it's creating a bigger gap between them and the primary group. So here I happen to time it so they get all past me. Usually it's pretty easy to do that. You can cast a counter spell on one of them if you need to, but once they're past and around the corner, then I run along here and I get to my reset or my kill spot, which I like to stand around these 2 circles. Not because of the ledge jump, but because of the line of sight that it allows me. So it basically allows me a good line of sight down the hallway to cast my blizzard. So here I'm going to cast a rank 1 blizzard to start. It allows me time for the mobs to come towards me, as well as the casters. It gives them the ability to cast on me kind of around this area, which is good because then they get caught in the blizzard, and then when I jump up for them to move forward, it allows them to essentially stay more as a group, stay more as a confined group. So here I'm going to cast a rank 1 blizzard, which really allows them to group up once they start getting remotely close. I jump up on my reset spot, and then I do what I call a backdoor blizzard. Backdoor blizzards are a little bit riskier because if there are any mobs that are past where I'm able to cast, which is more restricted as I'm up on the wall, they will run on ahead and it will cause a separation of the groups. Especially later in the pull, this is bad because if your mobs are at 50% health, then you lose 50% experience if you don't hit those mobs within 30 seconds. So I like to do really quick max rank blizzard there, max rank blizzard as they're coming back, and then I basically just keep hopping up back and forth and trying to do a max rank blizzard each direction. You don't need to do this. You can only do, if you want to, you can do it so you only do a max rank blizzard when you hop down. This will conserve your mana more, but it will be a little bit slower. And so I did notice, if you're looking down the hallway, that a few of my mobs did escape and they did run around the corner, but I've got this group well trapped, and so I'm able to stand there for a little bit longer. There's my clear casting, which is really helpful in being able to cast as many max rank blizzards as I need, and then I can just keep hopping up and down. So here I didn't have a problem, but if on the backdoor blizzards, I've had issues in the past where mobs end up losing like 10 to 20 mobs from the pull because they do get out of the blizzard and they run down the hallway while the others are stuck there. I don't see it, and then I end up losing that experience. So try to be very careful with that, but it is nice doing hopping up and back and being able to do a max rank blizzard each direction. Very, very helpful. Here I ended up failing doing the max rank blizzard. As you saw, I just clicked in the wrong spot. It happens. And then I just hop down and do it again. I get another clear casting here, which is really helpful. Helps me with my mana. And you'll notice that I'm already getting the bulk of the mobs down to 50% or less health. So again, just jumping back and forth, max rank blizzarding both directions. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but it does make the pulls quite a bit faster. And who doesn't like doing these pulls fast? Pretty simple. They're really starting to die now. I'm getting that full experience, which is really nice, and it's cleaning up here. What's really nice about these mobs is as they get to a lower health, they become slower, like a lot of other mobs. And so once they get to that point where they're a lot slower, you can honestly do multiple max rank blizzards if you wanted to while you're on the ground or while you're up top. And the only problem here is I did have this one Wormkin, this one caster who had escaped around the corner, and so his health is a little bit higher. So he is not as slow. So I had to be careful of that, and he could have done some melee damage to me or casted on me, either one. I wanted to be careful. So what you'll notice here is I do hop up. Once I'm out of mana, I can't do another max rank blizzard, and I just pop an evocation. You'll also notice I did use one of my gems early on. Typically what I recommend is as soon as you can, using your best gem. That way you have the cooldowns going, and then you can be more likely to use another gem if you need it. It's not always a requirement, but I have needed usually 1 to 2 gems each pull, so it's helpful to have those up and have the cooldowns going as soon as you can. It maximizes your mana, and it maximizes the amount of casts that you have before you have to pop your evocation or before you have to figure something else out. Here I'm getting down to one final mob, so I'm just going to frostbolt him down, and that's going to be the end of this pull. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I don't receive any particularly good loot. These aren't the best loot mobs, but you get pure money, and so I haven't been making a ton of money from it, but it hasn't been bad either. I'm hoping some sort of really good drop happens, but I am currently in the process of learning the 100 mob pull, which is this pull plus 25 to 30 troll elites. That will hopefully increase my odds of getting some good greens, possibly some blues, and potentially some purples. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, do some quick looting here, and then you're good to reset. Really quickly, what I remember doing here is I'm going to show you guys also a reset spot. So basically, what can happen if you have what's called that leak out, where those mobs run around the corner, run down the hallway, and you have a separation of your groups while you're doing the kill phase, you might kill one group, and then there's a whole nother group that's still remaining to be killed. In a case where that happens, I find it's best to just reset. The reason for this is because if you then go through the whole kill phase again with that second group without your consumes, without your evocation, it's going to take long enough that you're going to start despawning some of the mobs that you killed, and you're going to lose that on loot. I find it better in a case where I do miss mobs, just let it be, go to this reset spot that I'm about to show you, and then reset and do another pull and hopefully get more mobs on that pull. So the reset spot, which is really easy to get to, is just right here. I usually blink a little bit earlier, and then you just jump up on this ledge, just like that. It's very easy to do, very simple. This is one of those super easy jumps where you basically just jump and hold forward. You can let go of W, which makes it easier to clip, and then you get up there on the ledge. Again, this is a super easy jump. This is also one that you can practice if you want to before the run. And this is where your total reset spot will be. I just come up here and I stand in one of these two corners, and that allows me to reset the mobs. After 30 seconds or so, they will all reset and go back to where they were. So when it comes to once you're finished with the run, you're basically just going to run down the hallway past the mobs that you just killed, run down the stairs, and you're at your entrance to the instance. You can hop out and do the reset. And I'll show you guys really quickly what that pull was. Now the numbers are a little bit skewed here because I was standing in the instance a bit before the pull, so my XP per hour is a little bit lower than where it should be, but this pretty easy to master 72 mob pull does average some pretty solid experience, especially if you're able to really get down the groups and making sure that you're killing 72 instead of only 62 or 65 or however many mobs because you had those leakers run out. The last 2 pulls that I did before this, I got the full 72 and had no issues whatsoever. Just make sure that you monitor your damage that you're monitoring for 30 seconds after you hit them. If a mob runs down the hallway, if you haven't hit them in 30 seconds, you're going to lose whatever percentage of their health is missing from that kill. And so it's really important to try to kill them all together. So here, 72 mobs. 19.6k experience, the XP per hour 101k. Typically I'm averaging more about 130 to 140, so that's where those numbers are a little bit skewed. And then the time requirement, it is less than 11 minutes and 36 seconds. I've been having my pulls be kind of in the 9 to 10 minute range usually, sometimes a little bit less depending on how well the kill phase goes. And yeah, that's really it. This was a little bit more of a long-winded video, but I wanted to be precise and explain as much as I could. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other tutorials that you want, let me know in the comment section below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. This isn't optimized, so please, if there's anything that you see that it looks like you know you can figure out a better way to do it, please let me know as well, because I would like to improve upon this run. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe, and have a good day.